Welcome, friends, to our Wednesday meditation and talk. We're being webcasted on my Facebook and YouTube pages and IMCWs as well. We begin each week with a meditation, and I invite you to take a few moments and find the posture that'll most support you. As you start coming into stillness, just feel that you can either close your eyes or lower your gaze or let the gaze be soft. And truly invite yourself into presence. Invite yourself to be right here. In the stillness, take some moments to just let yourself settle, relax a bit. You might become aware of the breath and feel the breath in the area of the heart. And as if you could listen in to your heart, asking yourself the question, what is my deepest intention right now for practice? What is it that matters to me? And sensing where you feel most sincere. What is that longing in the heart? Is it for peace of mind? To relax, to not be fearful? Is it to open your heart? To be more natural in that loving quality? This would be more present for your life, yourself, for others. Is it for wisdom, spiritual realization? Realizing who you are. Sensing your deep intention, sensing our shared aspiration to awaken these hearts and minds and serve the awakening of others. We open together as community, those that have joined us live streaming, those everywhere. In this moment, you might bring your palms together in front of the heart in prayer, posture, pose. So you can feel the heart's sincerity as you chant. We'll chant 3 times this mantra Om, the sound current of connectedness. So begin by inhaling deeply. Be aware of this body sitting here, breathing. And gently begin to scan through the body with your awareness. If there's any areas of particular tightness or tension, letting them soften, relax. You might pay particular attention to the area of the brow, letting the eyes be soft and the brow smooth. You can even smile into the eyes to help relax and awaken that region of the face. Bringing a slight smile to the lips. This is sometimes called smile yoga because it sends a message to relax, be at ease, reduces fight, flight, freeze. Slight smile, letting the inside of the mouth smile. Let the tongue fill the lower palate. Relaxing down to the root of the tongue. You might allow the shoulders to relax back and down a little. And see if you can feel the shoulders from the inside out. And begin to detect the areas of movement and tightness. And if there's sense of clutching, of tension, let it float in awareness. Notice the possibility of a little softening, releasing, dissolving. Allowing your hands to rest in a very easy and effortless way. Softening the hands. Softening again. And now feeling again from the inside out. What do you notice? Can you sense the tingling or pulsing or vibrating in the hands? Become aware of an openness at the chest. And again, from the inside out, feeling the sensations in the area of the heart. Hands still soft. You can smile into the heart, visualizing and sensing the curve of a smile spreading through the chest. This doesn't paper over what's there, but it helps you to have room for experience. What's the experience of the heart from the inside out? Loosening down the abdominal region, and so that you can let this next breath be received in a softening belly. This breath, and now this breath, and again. Letting us smile, the image and sense of a smile spread through the belly. Feeling from the inside out. And what do you notice? What are the sensations like? Relaxing down through the pelvic region. Feeling the life from the inside out. Letting that awareness fill the legs. And fill the feet. And if you feel the feet from the inside out, can you notice the tingling and the vibrating there? Again, softening the hands, smiling into the eyes. And widening the attention so you can feel this whole body simultaneously as an energetic dance, a field of sensation. Just letting go a little more. Noticing how everything's moving, tingling, vibrating, heat, cool, flow, pressure, squeeze, bubbling, tingling, vibrating. You might sense with the in-breath that you're breathing into this whole energy body, even in a cellular way, in the spaces between the cells. And with the out-breath, there's that settling, releasing, relaxing outward. Your whole body breathing, this whole energy body breathing, completely receptive with the in-breath, exploring the very essence of receptivity, like a balloon inflating, totally receiving this life breath. With the out-breath, the essence of letting go, releasing, relaxing outward. You can feel this whole body breathing. Or if you just soften the hands and pay attention to the hands, sense how the breath can fill the hands, the cells and the spaces between, opening the joints with the in-breath, and with the out-breath settling, relaxing, letting go. exploring the nature of receptivity with the in-breath, softening and opening the cells, the joints, the spaces between the cells. With the out-breath, a relaxing, releasing, settling. You can feel your whole body, your whole energy body breathing in this way. Or if it helps to focus on just the hands, that's fine. If there's something that's calling your attention, some strong discomfort, a strong emotion that has unpleasantness in the body, you can let the breath go right to that most vulnerable place. Breathing in, receiving this life breath, letting it touch the cellular level and the spaces between the cells. And with the out-breath, letting go, letting whatever's here be released into the vastness around you. Letting this way of breathing be a way of deepening presence with what's right here. How open and receptive can you be with this in-breath? Allowing your whole being to be touched by the breath. And how much can you let go with the out-breath? Releasing into the vastness of space and awareness. And for these last moments now, letting go of any directing of the breath or the attention. Letting the breath be just as it is. And sensing in the background the awareness, that awake presence that's noticing everything. That which is aware of the breath and sound. That primordial, pure awareness that's our true home. resting in awareness, noticing the coming and going of this life, this breath, sensation, sound, letting everything be just as it is. As a way of coming back from the formal meditation, you might sense you're entering informal presence. If your eyes are closed, opening them and taking in the light and the forms and the colors, listening to the sounds around you, and moving mindfully, perhaps standing, stretching. So as you occupy this informal presence, I'll just share a few announcements of what's upcoming. I invite you each week to go to my website, tarabrach.com, for virtual offerings. The last few weeks, the new one is happiness, contentment, and inner freedom. Also, to let you know that the next satsang is June 11th, and it's a week from Saturday. And these are when we gather, everyone's invited for a short meditation and then opening it to questions you might have. And it's a really lovely way of coming together as community and hearing from each other. Okay, also to check imcw.org for offerings by our local DC area teachers. And the affinity groups for this coming week are women, vegan, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, living mindfully with illness together, and the LGBTQIA sit. Each week after the talk and the meditations, there's a time that you're again invited to join what's called mindful dialogue, which is breaking into smaller groups and sharing your experience of how you're bringing the practice into your life based on some of the themes of this week's talk. And the call and information is tarabrach.com/class. You'll find it there. And I also each week invite your generosity. The word in Pali is dana. And what you offer by donations makes a huge difference in helping us to continue to offer the meditations and talks freely. So I want to thank you for what you offer. Many people give $10 a week. Some give nothing or less, depending on what's affordable. Everyone is welcome, no matter what. And others give more if they can afford it. So again, let it be an expression of your heart. Know that it's appreciated, and the links can be found in the description. Okay, so we'll take a pause now. We'll take a few moments of quiet, and then the talk will begin. Namaste. Welcome, friends. Our theme for today is nourishing our spirit in difficult times, in times of collective fear. And, I really do feel like the overriding feature of today's world is this collective sense of a threatening and uncertain future. And even those who assume to have their fingers on the pulse don't know, really don't know how we're going to manage climate crisis, don't know what the outcome's going to be in Ukraine, don't know how future pandemic waves are going to play out. And we humans don't like uncertainty. It's hard to inhabit our lives in the moment when it all feels up for grabs, kind of out of control. I saw a cartoon with a fortune teller talking to a friend, and she's saying, I lost a fair amount of business when some of my best clients got together and successfully threw me a surprise party. And our brain is a predicting machine. We need a certain amount of predicting to be able to successfully navigate. And when this world is destabilized, it triggers a deep fear in the collective psyche. So the more we sense the reality of inevitable loss and suffering around the corner, the more anxious our minds get, fixating on what's wrong. And it's kind of like being in an airplane and being tossed around by unanticipated weather systems and just not being able to land in our life, in our moments, because we're tensing against what's next. I've been spending a lot of time recently with a dear friend who's been diagnosed with an uncommon and an aggressive cancer, and she has limited options. And naturally, she's really focused on what's to come and experiencing shock and fear and grief. And her core question right now is, how do I make the most of the time I have, knowing what's inevitable, knowing what's ahead? How do I make the most of right now, knowing what I know? And I keep reflecting on this because, in a deep way, it's our shared question. Individually, each of us is going to die. Our bodies are going to fail in some way. Our minds, we're going to face a lot of loss. And collectively, as we know, we're facing an increasing amount of climate trauma. We're facing, just in these few years ahead, the starvation of millions of people across the planet. We're facing threats of nuclear kind of devastation, uh, continuing pandemic. And in the United States, many of us are reeling from the race-based murders of 10 African Americans in Buffalo, and the deepening toxicity of white supremacy. Entirely related, we're facing the specter of civil war, really an uncertain fate of democracy. And I'm naming all this because it's a scary future. And it's natural to fear what's to come, to have a lot of grief or anger, distress, alarm. Naturally, we need to dedicate ourselves to bringing whatever healing we can to our world. And it's not the world out there, it's a part of us. And yet, and this is crucial, and this is the theme we're going to be looking at, is, and yet, and this is what's crucial, especially if you're thinking, geez, I don't know if I'm up for another talk about the awfulness of the world. No matter what's ahead, there's more to who we are and to what's possible in our lives than living our moments possessed by painful anticipatory emotions. In other words, if we're ruled by our amygdala, tensing against the future, we lose what most matters to us. We lose connecting in a loving way with each other. We lose living with presence, taking in our world with appreciation. We lose creativity. And actually, if we're hijacked by our fears, we lose our capacity to respond wisely to the world. It's so clear for my friend with cancer that being fixated on a scary future steals profoundly precious moments of real life that are here now. So our inquiry, how to face a truly threatening future and still really be here, live and love fully, savor our moments. And I feel like one of the great gifts of a spiritual path is that it offers pathways for reconnecting to our inner resources of love and courage and presence in the midst. It offers pathways that nourish our heart and spirit no matter what's going on. You can think of these pathways as falling in two domains, and they each require intentional training. And the first is a pathway of full presence with what is, and it's what we talk about a lot: mindful awareness, being completely, honestly, bravely here with the present moment as it is. The second pathway is intentionally turning your attention towards whatever arouses a sense of love, our strength, our openness, our spirit. It's what I refer to as turning towards our basic goodness, towards the gold. And friends, we need both. We need presence with our immediate experience, including however unpleasant it is, including simply being with our breath. Because if we regularly bypass that, if we don't have this capacity to ground in the present moment, you won't actually be able to turn towards the goodness, towards the light in an embodied and full way. And if you have no way of turning towards the light, of remembering goodness, of remembering beauty and kindness and joy, you won't have the resilience and the spaciousness to really be present for your life. So we need both pathways. And what we're going to do is explore these related ways of coming and nourishing our spirit. And in particular, I'd like to look at what neuroscience teaches us about deepening access to love and to joy. Okay, the first pathway, which is full presence with what is. And it really involves, again and again, coming back from our ideas and reactions to the future where we're lost in thought and connecting with the life of the moment. This is the process of mindfulness, what I often describe as the RA of RAIN: recognize and allow. A poem that I love by David Wagner goes like this, and you might want to just kind of get quiet for a moment and really listen. Stand still. The trees ahead and the bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here. Wherever you are is called here. And you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen, it answers, I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying, here. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying, here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger. I find such power to just saying the word here, here, to call myself back again from the virtual world into what's actually going on. And if we lean ahead, we'll be lost in the fears of trouble. I mean, the mind is, whatever thoughts you're having, they have a large percentage that are towards fear. So if instead we arrive in what's right here, stand still, here, we discover a kind of fullness. It's a mystery, a tender awakeness and awareness that really is home. So I've been mentioning my friend, and we were recently sitting together on a bench by the river, and we began noticing out loud here what was right here, naming wind on the face, light on the eyes, the sound of geese. There was a sense of each other side by side. We're simply recognizing the changing flow here, moment by moment, listening, feeling. And then we acknowledged and honored these are moments of real life, lived life, not missed because we were lost in talking or thinking about what's to come. So presence with this gateway of our senses, it's a sacred refuge here. It opens us to this awake awareness that's listening and seeing and feeling. Let's take a few moments. We'll be practicing in a few ways during our time together. Take a few moments now to pause. And you might let the attention settle, take a few full breaths. So you might use these words to help you feel yourself right here, saying, and you might whisper it out loud at first. Right now, I'm aware. And just name what you're aware of with your senses. What sounds are here? Or you might name breathing. Or you might name sensations in your body. So whispering over and over again, right now I'm aware. And then name what you're aware of. What's right here? You can let that be a mental whisper now. Aware of what's right here. And dropping even the words, just a silent knowing, moment to moment, of what's right here through your senses. As the awareness that you are, what is it like to experience the sounds, the sensations, the felt sense? Be aware of the knower, that background presence that's listening and feeling. And just be that presence. Discover intimately the openness that allowing quality, that sensitivity and tenderness. Getting to know presence, what's right here. And as you're ready, taking a few full breaths, opening your eyes if your eyes are closed. So the ground level of homecoming, of nourishing our spirit, is really to let go of the thoughts of the future and come right here, that intimacy with this moment's experience, connecting with the gold. And now here I want to pause and emphasize a key element that deepens this pathway. So that if any moment you pause and you say, here, what's right here? How can you deepen that sense of presence? And the element that really makes a difference, and neuroscience really emphasizes this, is that when you feel that sense of contact, here-ness, presence, entrain, in other words, get to know it. Pause even longer and notice the quality of the presence. Take it in, bathe in it, get familiar. And let me say why this entraining is necessary. Why, when you come home to something you value, like presence or calmness or openness, why entraining to it, anchoring it in your psyche really makes a difference. And again, this is where neuroscience comes in. So consider this. You do something for work. Let's say 8 people express gratitude and compliment you. And one person has a criticism. What is it you remember? What is it you perseverate over? What stays with you? It's due to our brain's negativity bias that what happens is when we have an unpleasant or scary experience, it's very sticky. It lodges in the implicit memory. It haunts us. It feels more thinking. It feels more negativity. But when we have a pleasant experience, it's much less sticky. It gets forgotten easily. So to create stickiness, to increase our access to positive states, we have to entrain. We have to spend some time with it, pause, take it in, get familiar. Otherwise, our habits that come from the negativity bias are going to rule. There's a story of a woman returning from a meditation retreat, and she had a little extra time at the airport between flights. So she gets a bottle of water and a small package of cookies, and she struggles all her luggage and everything to an unoccupied table. And she's reading the paper when she becomes aware of someone rustling at her table. And she, from behind her paper, she's flabbergasted to see a neatly dressed young man helping himself to her cookies. And she didn't want to make a scene, so she leaned across and took a cookie herself. Minute or so passed, more rustling. He's helping himself to another cookie. By the time they're down to the last cookie in the package, she's super angry, but can't bring herself to say anything. And then the young man broke the cookie in two, pushed half to her, ate the other half, and left. Sometime later, when the public address system called for her to present her ticket, she's still fuming. And so try to imagine her embarrassment when she opens her pocketbook and is confronted by her package of cookies. She had been eating his. So her negativity bias, assuming greed or insensitivity or people taking advantage of her. So neuroscience really guides us in how to shift this bias. And that's by, in moments of positive experience, here, when you really touch into here and presence, entrain, pause, 3 breaths, maybe 30 seconds, soak in it, get to know it. That will let it actually have that stickiness that stays in the unconscious. And for this woman with the cookies, what if she had spent time in training to feelings of trust or generosity or seeing goodness? They could have enjoyed a cookie party, sharing cookies together. Okay, so this is in training, and you might wonder then, yeah, but what if you say here, but what you open to is not that quality of spaciousness or calm or presence, but it's filled with fear and pain. And this is where I want to take the next step and say that's an invitation to deepen your attention with rain. The initial practice of here is recognize and allow. The full rain is recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. So I'll share personally that like many I know, letting in world news is increasingly disturbing. And I'd say these last weeks have been especially upsetting. The killings by the white supremacist in Buffalo, the Supreme Court on Roe, the deepening crisis in food shortages, just so many on the edge already around the world. So what happens is that on some days, especially when I've taken in a lot of news, I can move through the day kind of locked in a grimness, a sense of weightiness, it feels oppressive. I get anxious, just a background hum. And when I become aware and do a short rain, it goes like this. I'll recognize, this is grim, kind of grim or angry or anxious. I'll recognize it. And then I'll allow it, just, okay, let that be here. And then when I investigate under the grimness, there's a fear of increasing suffering in our world. And if I keep opening, if I keep staying with that, what comes under it is a real sense of sorrow. I touch into grief for our world, and there's often tears, crying, and then the nurturing is really I often bring my hand to my heart and just feeling that caring and feeling a prayerfulness for our world, that there be growing compassion, wisdom, healing. And then I entrain. And entrain in rain comes in after the rain. We're in those moments where I feel, there's more openness and just pure tenderness. And I get to know that because that's home. That openness and tenderness is more who I am. It's more the truth of who I am than that tight, grim place. It can include the grimness, but I'm not being ruled by it. So again, friends, we can come into presence right here, right now. And when we get to that place of tenderness and openness in training, helps us to have it more available. You might practice for a moment, if you will. We'll just take a pause again. Take a few full breaths. And then bring up something that's not a huge place of pain and reactivity, but where you have some sense of frustration or some sense of anxiety. We're going to do a light rain. When you have a place in mind, just recognize whatever emotion is strongest. Just name it. Allow it. Investigate by feeling where it is in the body, what's really going on. What is it that you perhaps have been unwilling to feel that's under it? What is it that you maybe have not been able to accept, open to? And as you investigate, you might bring your hand to your heart and just feel a sense of care going to whatever part of you is vulnerable or distressed. You might even offer yourself a message of comfort. And just sense whatever shift to whatever degree has given you some more presence, some more tenderness. And take 3 full breaths and just feel fully where you are right now. Feel fully the awareness, the presence, the tenderness. Even if in the sea of that presence there are still currents, which is quite natural, of fear, upset, just sense that there's a little more spaciousness and get familiar. Relax back, beloved one, into the timeless presence from which shines stardust and storms, love and light. Rest, beloved one, in the mystery that is your source. Okay, so if you'd like to open your eyes if they were closed, this is the first pathway, being with what's here, being with what's here through the senses, and if it requires a deepening presence with rain, and with each in training. When you arrive even at a subtle shift where there's more presence, getting to know that presence. This is home. Now, the second pathway is intentionally turning toward the light. It's what the Buddhists call gladdening the mind. I had a woman in our Sangha some years ago who was struggling with her health, and she shared a conversation she had with a wise friend. The friend had asked, what would happen? What would it feel like for you to think that something good was going to happen rather than something not so good or even bad was going to happen today? And this woman responded, totally weird and uncomfortable. And her friend said, good, okay, try that. And you might try that. Just sense whatever part of the day you're in, that there's something enriching, enlivening, connecting that's possible. Something ahead that's possibly enriching to your life. Not to create an expectation, but openness to possibility. So it's interesting because in happiness research, one common denominator of those deemed happy is choosing happiness, sensing this as a possibility and turning towards it, gladdening the mind. Henri Nouwen, a Catholic mystic and writer, goes further. He says, joy does not simply happen to us. We have to choose joy and keep choosing it every day. So this becomes particularly critical in difficult times where our survival brain can keep us so grim, so tensed against the future. And that, of course, just fuels pessimism and depression, anxiety, an armored heart. And it also creates high blood pressure and reduced immune response. If we don't have ways of gladdening the mind, turning towards what brings happiness, love, wonder, we won't have resilience. So choosing to turn towards the light, towards happiness, creates an inner environment that really allows true peace and well-being to arise. And again, neuroscience, it's based on this principle of neuroplasticity. And that means that no matter what your patterns are in your life, in your brain, they can be changed. And how we pay attention rewires the brain. In other words, where attention goes, energy flows. the more you turn towards the light, the more you repeat that, the more energy and familiarity goes in that direction. What we practice gets stronger. In one story, Saul and Mort are walking from religious service, and Saul wonders whether it'd be all right to smoke while praying. And Mort says, well, why don't you ask Rabbi Schwartz? And so Saul goes to Rabbi Schwartz and says, Rabbi, may I smoke while I pray? And the rabbi says, no, my son, you may not. That's disrespect to our religion. Saul goes back to his friend, tells him the answer, and Mort says, I'm not surprised. I mean, you asked the wrong question. Let me try. So Mort goes up to the rabbi and says, Rabbi, may I pray while I smoke? To which the rabbi eagerly replies, by all means, my son, by all means. So it's not a great example, but the point is, the more you turn your attention in a direction that arouses positive resources like feelings of love or connection or wonder, the more those experiences will be available to you. Truly, what we practice grows stronger. So you may have felt resigned to depression or anxiety, but these states can be rewired, they can shift. I was working with an environmental scientist and an activist who is acutely aware of the destruction of our earth, our world, and the lack of a meaningful response. And through the day, more and more over these last years, he's been regularly swamped in anger and in fear. And he's particularly pained thinking about his children and what they're growing up to. So he told me that he, some months back was talking to his wife about that despair, about his children and their future. And she said, sweetie, I get it. I truly understand, but please, please don't let the awfulness of the future rob you or them of the love that's here. Don't let the awfulness of the future rob you or them of the love that's here. So wise. I mean, she's not saying to him, don't worry, or she's not saying, don't grieve what's happening. She's simply saying, you don't have to miss the love, the beauty that's here now. And so it is with us, that we have to have an honest presence with our experience, that first pathway, and we have to gladden the mind. There are several direct ways of gladdening the mind. Each involves entraining, that once you feel a bit gladdened, you entrain to that, get familiar. And the first is that a lot of times pleasantness just arises spontaneously. You'll see a flower and see the face of the flower and the delicacy, and just there's a sense of kind of wonder. Or you might feel that breeze on your cheek or see the glow in a child's eyes, and it just springs up in you. In those moments, you can take 3 long, deep breaths. You can pause there and take in, let in, bathe in that sense of the goodness that's there. And many find rain as a really useful tool of doing that. I mean, we often think of rain as something you use with difficulty, but it can also be a powerful tool for increasing your access to positive experiences. A few days ago, I got a letter from someone who shared how she was bringing rain to happy moments. And she described walking to work one day in this uprising of calmness and presence. So she recognized it and she allowed those feelings. And then she investigated a little bit more. And I'll read what she wrote. The mucky spring weather and anticipation of an important project coming to fruition, a cacophony of birdsong, a good night's sleep. Just feeling the presence and the calm taking in her world. And then the nurturing was really appreciating and honoring what a wonderful way to start the day, getting to know it, opening to that goodness. She wrote that a simple rain reflection on goodness, and she says, I mean simple, maybe 30 seconds or less, made it stronger and more accessible to me during the day. So any moment that there's a positive feeling that spontaneously arises, entrain with rain, recognize it, allow it, investigate and feel it, nurture. Take those 3 long, deep breaths. It makes it sticky. So you can do this when something spontaneously happens, but you can also intentionally arouse positive states of mind. And this will be the final piece that we explore. You can be feeling any way and turn the attention to arouse positive states of mind. I was talking with one friend who's a teacher, a woman of color, and this was just a few days ago. We were sharing our grief about the shootings in Buffalo, and she was talking about how that's really up-leveled fear for her. And she told me about needing to shop and going to a parking lot at Food Lion, and how she would scan the cars in the lot for Confederate flags. And she talked about for her and for her friends of color, it's just another level of unsafe. That white supremacy has always been here, but it's more above the ground, more energetically and violently embraced, and getting worse. So then I asked her about how she was taking care of herself. And she said, well, of course, my practice is to open to the fear and to be real with it. And she said, I also take real time to nourish myself. And she does it by reflecting on the love of her partner and grandson. And one of her main ways is she sits outside and feels this connection with a large tree in her yard. She's named the tree Bodhi, which has to do with awakening. And she says that helps her feel the presence of her ancestors and feel supported by the trees and the grass and the air and the ants. In other words, it grounds her back in loving awareness where she doesn't have to hold it alone. And that's her entraining. Her entraining is just sensing that loving awareness. It's like the ocean that has room for the waves. She wrote to me, especially now when I feel heart achy and like I need to do more, be more. I'm reminded that I'm resourced beyond measure. So again, it doesn't take away the grief or the fear, but it gives us this vast space to unfold in. That's a gift of gladdening the mind. So you can do it through training when something comes up spontaneously, or you can do it through a loving kindness reflection when you practice loving kindness or metta and you feel a sense of love and train to that. Or you can do it when you practice gratitude, when you say to yourself, what am I grateful for? And then feel the gratitude. So we started, and I shared, about my friend with cancer and her question, how do I make the most of the time I have, knowing what's ahead? And the truth is that we can't get rid of a threatening future, and we can't avoid our fears or our grief or our uncertainty. But there are 2 pathways that can give us a lot of freedom. And one is really right here, presence with what is, here, here. And the second refuge really is turning towards the light, remembering what we love. And when you touch presence through either of those pathways, when you feel a sense of being at home, entrain, pause, breathe with it, get to know it so that you trust that this is more the truth of who you are than any story that imprisons you. It's like that environmental activists. We do what we can. We dedicate ourselves to helping. And as his wife said so perfectly, please, please don't let the fear of the future rob you of loving today. Okay, we're going to do a final practice of gladdening the mind and then in training with that. And I invite you, as we've been doing, to let this be a pause. Give yourself that gift of taking a few moments to come into stillness. Give yourself that gift of taking a few full, deep breaths to help collect you right here, right now. And give yourself that gift of seeing what wants to let go a little in your body. Maybe you bring your attention to the shoulders and notice that you can soften a little. Maybe you can soften the hands, let them rest in an effortless way. Soften the belly. Allow the breath to move deep into the torso. You might bring a slight smile to the mouth and sense it spreading so you can feel it in your eyes. Let the eyes be soft. You might visualize and sense that curve of a smile spreading through the heart, making room for the life that's here. Let it spread, that sense of openness and tenderness through the body. And I invite you to reflect on what you love, what you're grateful for. And as a way of guiding yourself, you might mentally whisper, I'm grateful for, and then just say whatever comes to mind. And then whisper it again, and I'm grateful for, and say what comes to mind over and over. Or if you'd prefer, you can say, what I love is over and over, filling in the blank. So choosing one and begin inwardly. What I'm grateful for, or what I love is. And now choose one thing that you named that you're grateful for, that you love, and sense that really close in. What really brings up the gratitude? What really brings up the love? And let go of the object and just feel through your body and your heart the fullness of gratitude and love. Discover what it's like by letting it fill you, as if you could bathe in it, that every cell could bathe in that feeling of gratitude or love, the spaces between them. Sense how big it is. How big is the gratitude, the love? And just open out into that fullness. Sensing this is home, more true than any story. This is the gold, the essence of what we are. Just take some moments to value that, honor that. Relax back, beloved one, into the timeless presence from which shines stardust and storms, love and light. Rest, beloved one, in the mystery that is your source. As you're ready, if your eyes are closed, opening the eyes. I want to thank you, friends, for your attention. It gladdens my heart to be with you. I feel like the field that we share is filled with loving, filled with truth, and is what can carry us as we move through these times. Namaste. Thank you.